SoFi Technologies gave investors a rare but long-term exceptional earnings per share guidance that pleased stock market investors, and SoFi stock is up over 20%, or was up over 20% after coming back down a little bit after giving this guidance to investors. So not only does SoFi think it's going to achieve profitability on the bottom line in 2024, but SoFi thinks those earnings per share are going to multiply in 2025 and 2026. So that has me answering the question here in this video: where could SoFi stock be in 2026? So that's what I'm going to tackle in this video. So let's jump in. Let's take a look at all these figures, estimates, and assumptions, and determine where SoFi stock price could be in a couple of years.
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/Parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now.
All right, so here's the guidance from management in the most recent quarterly update. SoFi management saying that full year GAAP net income will be in the range of 95 to 105 million for 2024. Or if you look at it on a per share basis, it'll be between 7 cents and 8 cents for 2024. That alone was good news for SoFi stock investors, but management didn't stop there. They went on to say that they are going to increase their earnings per share between 55 cents and 80 cents by 2026. So their earnings per share in 2026 is going to be between 55 cents and 80 cents. That's going to be multiples higher than the 7 cents to 8 cents that they're forecasting for 2024. And notably, the 2026 earnings has a wider range, and that's understandable given that it's still, at least 2 to 3 years into the future. So it's harder for management to predict what's going to happen that many years in the future, especially when you're a business that's not dependent primarily on recurring revenue. If this was a services business, like for instance Verizon gets most of its revenue from subscriptions, it would have been easier to predict earnings per share. But for a bank that offers lending services and financial services and technology and more different products, it's harder to predict where earnings per share will be. So we're going to use this number. I'm going to pick a point in between the 55 cents and 80 cents to forecast where I think SoFi's stock price will be. But I also need to know where SoFi's valuation is going to be. So here I have pulled up SoFi's price to earnings ratio, which is at 35.86. I've also brought in some comparisons. Now, SoFi does a little bit of everything in terms of financial services, so it's hard to pinpoint one financial services company that it's precisely alike. So I brought in several. I brought in Block, Square. It offers similar services. Visa does. You can say Visa is not as similar to SoFi, but it's a financial services company. It's the most profitable financial services company in the world. And so I brought this in. And then PayPal, a little bit similar, not quite as similar. And then Bank of America. Okay, so I brought in 4 different examples. And if I look at their valuations, Visa at a forward price to earnings of 24, Block at 17, PayPal at 10, and Bank of America at 9.7, we can see all of these comparisons are trading at a lower valuation than SoFi. So I'm going to assume that in 2026, SoFi's valuation is going to decrease as it grows, because that's phenomenal growth over these next 2 to 3 years. And you can understand why investors would be willing to pay a premium valuation for SoFi stock, because it's going to be growing most likely better than all of these others that I've listed here. But is that going to be the case in 2026? When we reach 2026 and we're looking forward the next 3 to 4 years, is SoFi going to still have those better prospects than these rivals? The answer is most likely yes, but the difference may be narrower. SoFi's growth may still be better than these rivals, but that difference may be narrower. It may not be as different as it is today. Right now, SoFi is growing much more quickly than many of these rivals. But I don't think that's going to be the case in 2026 when SoFi will have already grown to a much larger size. Just my opinion, my prediction, not necessarily what will actually happen in that year. So all that being said, let's look at the valuation. Now I've got figures here. I've already answered where I think SoFi stock price will be in 2024. I've also answered where I think SoFi stock price will be in 2025. Those videos are on my channel. I'll also link to it at the end of this video if you want to see those predictions. Here, I'm going to look at where SoFi stock price could be in 2026, the prediction down here. So I'm assuming earnings per share of 65 cents in 2026. And the way I got that number, remember, is looking at this 55 cent to 80 cent guidance. And I picked a point in between at 65 cents to estimate where its earnings per share will be in 2026. Now, if you look at the base case where its valuation stays the same at 36, and I got that just from SoFi's forward price to earnings ratio. But remember, this was a forward price to earnings ratio, and I'm looking here at the 36. I'm keeping that same price to earnings ratio, even though I would not be doing a forward PE here. It would just be a regular price to earnings because I don't have 2027 earnings per share estimates from SoFi. I have 2026 earnings per share estimates for SoFi. But I also don't have trailing 12-month earnings per share from SoFi because they've only just begun profitability in the fourth quarter. So that's why I'm using a forward price to earnings with the actual year's earnings, just for those of you that were curious about the difference in those metrics. So if the PE stays the same at 36 and SoFi does deliver 65 cents per share, its stock price could rise to $23.40 by 2026. Now that would be a significant increase from the roughly $8 per share SoFi is trading at as of this recording. That would be nearly tripling in 3 years. But remember, I said SoFi's price to earnings valuation is most likely to decrease according to my estimates going forward based on the comparisons with other financial services companies. So if that PE falls to 30, earnings per share is still at 65 cents, its stock price could more than double to $19.50. But if its earnings per share stays at 65 cents, but the PE falls to 25, the stock could more than double to $16.25. And then if the PE falls to 20, the stock could increase to $13 in 2026. So in all of these scenarios we looked at, if SoFi does deliver the 65 cents in earnings per share, it looks like the stock price will be meaningfully higher in 2026. But how much higher? Again, just like SoFi management, I'm going to give a range here because it's hard to predict precisely going forward that far into the future. But if I was to give an estimate, I would say SoFi stock price will be around this scenario with a PE of around 25 and a stock price around $16 per share. The range I would give would be something between $15 and $17 per share in 2026. That is, if all else remains equal and SoFi does bring in 65 cents of earnings per share in 2026. But like the other videos, I'm curious to hear what your estimates are. In previous videos, the comment section had suggested that I was too pessimistic with SoFi stock. My price predictions were too low. I'm curious what you think of this one, if you think I'm still too low on SoFi stock price going into 2026. Thank you for watching this video. I truly appreciate it. I know there's a lot you could be doing with your time and a lot of other videos you could be watching. So I truly appreciate that you chose to watch this one. If you want to see more videos just like this, hit the subscribe or the like button. They'll both help me make more videos just like this one. Thank you again.